Hello everyone, welcome to The Zone. Today is going to be a very simple one. I think I've come to the conclusion that Manchester United fans, for the most part, are absolutely completely tapped in the head. I don't know what's happened to them, because they used to be a pretty good bunch with like they knew the standards and they knew what was good enough and what wasn't good enough, and if anybody fell out of line, that wasn't okay, and they could be replaced, and players were replaceable, managers were replaceable, staff were replaceable, and it was the best of the best trying to win everything. Today's video will be very short. We're dealing with a bunch of fans, all in brand new shirts, that in the 93rd minute are singing Bruno, 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 as he puts a tackle in his own box as the deepest player on a player from Brighton whilst being 3-1 down at home, having just previously been smashed by City, Liverpool 7-0, all these basic horrific defeats on his name. They're still chanting his name and still hyping up these players that are not good enough. They're not. It's very simple. You have a bunch of average players, you will get average results, like you saw today. I want to run through this and really make it clear what I'm on about. There's two main problems: the squad and the owner, and then there's the manager that is in tandem with those things. So let's have a look. Today, Hoyland, however you want to say it. Was he good enough today? He took one of his chances. He was nervous. He was slipping. He was falling. But he took his chance well, and unfortunately, I don't think it was over the line. I think if he'd got a proper angle and he'd have looked from above, it was actually in. It seems like we learnt nothing about the whole World Cup scandal where the ball looked miles out, but then when they looked from it top down, it was in. We never got that angle. We just sort of looked from the side. Point is, look, he's nervous. He's on his debut. I'm not going to rate him. We've got what's his name coming on? Hannibal came on. He scored. Didn't do much apart from that. Ran around, tried to look busy. And when he scored, he went crazy in his celebration despite being 3-1 down. Something's wrong there in the mentality. You can say, oh, he's just a kid. He's excited to score. Doesn't matter. Something's wrong in the mentality. You don't celebrate scoring at 3-1. Marcus Rashford, he's returned to his shoot on sight policy, and you might say he got 30 goals and all of this, but the proof's in the pudding. Pep Guardiola said last year, in the Champions League final it's going to be really difficult because when you boot it up to them, they can hold up the ball, unlike, say, Rashford. All he can do is run into space. Is that what Manchester United's about? And he's become this irreplaceable player when all he does is run into a bit of space. Eriksen. We know Eriksen wasn't good enough last season, but he was a stopgap on a free. The manager wanted him replaced, and the Glazers haven't replaced him. In a way, you could say, well, they replaced him with Mount. Yes, but the problem is, when you replace him with Mount, if Mount's injured, you're back to Eriksen, who we know isn't good enough. Therefore, you haven't really replaced him. So you can blame the owner, the manager, whatever. We know he's not good enough to play proper high-level midfield football anymore. Scott McTominay, he wanted him out of the club. The club wouldn't sell him, and so we're stuck with him, and now he's playing. You could blame the manager. You could say, well, if you know he's not good enough, why are you playing him? Oh, well, there's no backups. I'm sure there's somebody out there. I'm sure there's absolutely somebody out there that could have played that isn't Scott McTominay. Could it have been Gore? Could it have been Hannibal from the get-go? Could it have been, who knows, could you have put Lindelof into defensive midfield role or whatever and then put Maguire in? And people are going to say, Maguire? I'll get on to that. Dalot, fancy stepovers. We know he's not really good enough because we were looking for a replacement right back. Was it in Frimpong? And then Wan-Bissaka tried to overtake his role. He did, but we've realised he's not quite good enough. So now we're back to Dalot. So you could say, why is the manager playing him? Well, he don't really have much options there, does he? Lindelof, we knew under Jose he wasn't good enough. He has his moments. He's relatively solid. But as we saw at 3-1, there was a chance to win a header and make it 3-2, a pretty crystal clear header. He missed it. He completely missed it. And that's just what he does. He's not great in the air. And then you've got Martinez. Awful. Truly awful. Every match he's played this season, he's been awful. And yet fans are cheering his name and calling him the butcher. So I want to ask you this. If Maguire had played every single game instead of Martinez, and we'd have had the results that we'd have had, and he'd have put in the performances that Martinez had had, all the Man U fans would have said, oh, well, we obviously can't play real football with Maguire. He's awful. Well, we can't even play real football with Martinez. And Varane is permanently injured. We've got a Tottenham left back. Yeah, okay, he tried a little bit, but he's not as good as Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw should have been replaced a long time ago. Casemiro, he's aging, he tries his best, but he's in a midfield that's dead. What can he do? Bruno, when was his last really, really top performance? Would you say it was Forest or whatever it was when he dragged us to victory? Maybe. I wouldn't say so. I'm beginning to very, very heavily dislike him. Hit and hope, moaning, huff and puff, not much quality. I can't see why he's been made captain other than the fact he's the only player that doesn't get injured, basically. He's not this irreplaceable force, the same as Rashford is not this irreplaceable force, and that's our whole team. Onana, I said from the get-go, I don't like De Gea. I think if you're trying to win stuff, De Gea's not going to be the answer. But look, if you're buying a replacement goalkeeper, obviously they want to be really good with their feet. That's massively important. Make light of it if you want, but it is. But they've got to be able to save shots. And I think it was something like 11 shots faced, 9 goals. That today, the third goal was awful. He whether it's confidence or whatever, or, shaky back four, I can't build a relationship, whatever it might be, he's been pretty crap, let's be honest. He brought on Garnacho at 85 minutes and Palestri. I think that's really unfair on them. I don't know why he's playing Eriksen, Rashford, and moving Bruno out wide and all of this when he's got proper wide players. If you needed a winger, and I'm not even joking, if you need to play a right winger, the lad we just got rid of would have been better. Alanga. As an out-and-out winger, counter-attack with pace, which is what we seem to be doing. If this fantastic football that Ten Hag's meant to have invented, what we're actually doing is long ball counter-attack into space, no different to Ole, except we've removed all pace from our team and strength. You can say, oh, well, he was struggling with that midfield. Well, he's the one that sold Fred. Why is he selling Fred? £5 million, it doesn't help FFP. He could have kept Fred. All right, well, if you're not going to get... Remember Jose, he really wanted to keep Fellaini, who, by the way, I really rated Fellaini. I thought he gave his all, and he was actually a constant threat, and he had big impacts in cup runs. If you know you're not going to sign anybody, don't sell anyone. You might need them. But it's just cost saving for the Glazers. So we were well and truly beaten. We were awful, and we're trying to play this transitional counter-attack football with a small, weak, slow team. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I have no idea what the manager is doing. Somebody can tell me, oh, well, the players are rubbish, and he had his hands tied because everyone was injured. He's tying his own hands behind his back with the way he's handling stuff. If he didn't play Anthony every single bloody game, he could have played Sancho, who, by the way, I don't think is that good anyway. But the point is, he's wheeling on Martial at 60 minutes for Højlund. Why? He's bringing on Garnacho and Palestri at 85 minutes when the game's over. Why? He's relentlessly sticking with Bruno and Rashford despite them not performing. Why? People will say, oh, there's no backups. It doesn't matter if there's no backups. This is what Man United fans are deluded about. It doesn't matter if there's no backups. You just play someone else, and it doesn't matter who it is. because it sends the message of, you're being shit, mate. You don't get to play. So if it's a case of, wow, Bruno's been really, really poor for 5 games and Rashford's been poor for 5 games and damn, we don't really have a replacement, doesn't matter. Go and put Garnacho up front. Go and put Rashford up front. Go and put Palestri on left wing. Whatever it might be, you've got to show that standards have to be kept. And he just seems to play his favourites. And the whole standards myth just seems to be reserved for a few people. I have no idea what he's doing. Our team is awful. Onana, Dalot, Lindelof, Martinez, Regulion, Casemiro, McTominay, Eriksen, Bruno, Rashford, Højlund. Awful. The title is over. If anybody for some silly reason thought we were going to make a comeback and be in a title race, the title is over. We're not winning the Champions League. I have no idea why people get excited that we're in the Champions League. All the Champions League means is we get money as a club, and then that gives the Glazers an excuse to stay longer and not be in it. The Manchester United fans should be pretty embarrassed. They should not go to games, not turn up, not buy merchandise, and get rid of the Glazers. That's step 1. Then we can get rid of players and managers and da-da-da-da-da. But it will never ever change if at the 93rd minute, after we've just lost the title, before we're even halfway through September, you're all sat there applauding